I signed over half of my father's inheritance to my sister because she cried and told me she was drowning in debt and about to lose her house. 1 week later, I found out there was no debt. There was no house at risk. There was only a down payment, on a vacation home she never planned to tell me about. My name is Claire. I'm 34 years old, and for most of my life, I was the responsible one. My sister, Megan, 2 years younger, was always the one who needed help with rent, help with car payments, help getting out of situations she talked herself into. Our parents covered for her for years. I never resented it. That's just who Megan was, and I loved her. When our father passed away last spring, he left everything split evenly between us, the house, his savings, a small property upstate he'd bought decades ago. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to change both our lives. Enough to pay off debt. Enough to finally breathe. 2 weeks after the funeral, Megan called me crying. She said she was behind on her mortgage. She said the bank had sent a foreclosure notice. She said if she didn't come up with $40,000 in the next month, she and her 2 kids would lose their home. I didn't hesitate. I transferred her half of the inheritance early, before the estate had even fully settled, just so she could show the bank proof of incoming funds. I even called my lawyer to speed up the paperwork on my end so hers could go through faster. I told her, that's what family does. 1 week later, I was scrolling through Instagram and stopped cold on a post from Megan's husband, Tyler. A photo of a lake house. New dock. New furniture on the porch. The caption read, "Finally closed on our dream getaway house, thank you for years of patience, babe." I stared at it for a long time before I called Megan. She didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. So I drove to her house, the one that was supposedly about to be foreclosed on. It looked exactly the same as it always had. No notices on the door. No moving boxes. No signs of any crisis at all. Tyler answered when I knocked. He looked confused for a second, then guilty. Megan came down the stairs a moment later, and I asked her one question, is the house being foreclosed on? Silence. No, she finally said. It was never that serious. I was going to catch up eventually. Tyler found this lake property, and it was such a good deal, and I knew if I told you the real reason, you'd say no. I stood in the doorway of the home she claimed she was about to lose, and I understood, she had never been about to lose anything. She had lied to my face, at our father's funeral, still fresh with grief, to get money for a vacation house. I asked for the money back. Megan said it was already spent, the closing had gone through, the down payment was non-refundable. She said I was overreacting, that it was still, technically fair, because it was my choice to give it to her early. I told her it wasn't my choice. It was a decision I made based on a lie. I contacted the lawyer handling my father's estate. He confirmed what I feared, because I had voluntarily transferred those funds before the estate closed, and because there was no written loan agreement, there was very little legal recourse. Megan was right about one thing, legally, it was my choice. Morally, it was theft dressed up as a family emergency. I didn't speak to Megan for 2 months. Our mother tried to play peacemaker, telling me to, let it go, she's still your sister. But every time I thought about my father's money he worked 30 years to save, funding a lake house while Megan smiled in vacation photos, something in me hardened. Here's what none of them knew. Before Dad passed, he had asked me privately to hold on to something for him, a small locked box he said was, just in case. I never opened it. I assumed it was old photos or paperwork. After everything with Megan, I finally opened it. Inside was a letter, and a separate, smaller account he'd set up years earlier, one Megan didn't know existed. In the letter, my father wrote that he suspected Megan might struggle to manage a lump sum responsibly, and he wanted me to have discretion over an additional fund, meant to be used at my judgment, for whichever of my daughters needs it most, when the time is right. He had trusted me, quietly, deliberately, with more than an equal split. He'd seen this coming before I did. I didn't use it for revenge. I used it exactly how he asked, with judgment. I set up a small trust for Megan's kids, my niece and nephew, money that goes directly to their education, that Megan and Tyler cannot touch or redirect. I told Megan what I'd found, and for the first time in months, she didn't argue. She cried, real tears this time, and apologized, not for getting caught, but for lying to someone who had never once said no to her. We're rebuilding, slowly. She still lives in the lake house. I still see the photos sometimes. But I no longer feel like the sister who gets used. I feel like the daughter my father trusted to do the right thing, even when it was the hardest one. If someone in your family has ever lied to you for money, tell me your story in the comments. Subscribe for more real family stories, betrayal, truth, and the moments that change everything.